Okay.
Hello and welcome to this podcast. The guest that I have with me today is someone I have been wanting to have as a guest for, I think, over a year at least in my head. I don't, I can't say that we are really friends in the sense that we are in touch very often, but through social media, reading each other's thoughts, there is a sense of bonding, I guess. So thank you so much, Nisha, for joining and finding time today. Would you want to introduce yourselves before we begin the conversation?
Sure, sure. Thank you for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here. And in by way of introduction, I mean there is not a lot to say, but I'm a self-employed person since the last 15 years, happily self-employed. I work as a brand consultant, and over time I have evolved from wanting to be an author when I think I graduated till now, where I kind of work on do the kind of work that I want to. So that's been my journey.
Okay. Um, One thing that I would want to tell my viewers is that one of the things that intrigues me about Nisha is the way she studies minds for her professional understanding also, and by her nature also, she is quite curious to see what makes us tick and the various manifestations of these thoughts in our mind are studied by her in detail. So it is actually a pleasure. So I want to start on that note itself. When I was thinking, what is the first question that I would want to ask Nisha if I were to meet her? And so, being an intellectual person of sorts myself, for a long time I depended on books and other kinds of information to feed my curiosity to understand human nature. I found that till I landed upon the journey to read my own mind, there was this huge fight always because when my mind went against me. Uh, I found it very difficult to deal with. It made me very vulnerable. The knowledge that I had garnered through books or videos, or I had that at the tip of my tongue, but it did not help me when I needed it most. Especially because I was a little with a spiritual bent of mind. I read a lot of what does different religious books say about things, but it never helped me when I was down. I found myself suffering quite a lot. So, but I do not want to restrict it to the religious part of it. What is your understanding of this kind of mind or learning?
So it's really an interesting question. And you mentioned mind and you mentioned books, and for me the two are so much related, because I think that what we read actually shapes how we think and therefore whom we become. And for the longest time, I have really sworn by books. And to the extent that I think there was a time when if I wanted to write something in a presentation or I wanted to quote something to someone, I always wanted to make sure there were references. So very
Mhm.
particular that, because there is knowledge that has gone before us, and that knowledge can actually inform us and make us do better in what we do. But what really mattered to me over time was, making sense of what I read for myself, and finding my own voice. And I think, and I believe this is a journey for everyone. And I believe very passionately that everyone should have has, not should have, has their own voice and their own interpretation of their journey. And what you've read actually is a filter that helps you to express this. And so for me, the journey has always been towards self expression. And books are a way to understand one's experiences, and books are only one way of self expression. I think the strongest way of self expression is what all of us do, is that we go out there and we work or do something. So, all of us are karma yogis in that sense, is what I
Correct.
believe. More than some of us will have the privilege maybe of teaching others or imparting knowledge to others, but all the rest of us, we are on a journey, we are doing what we can, and that is our experience. And And I think seeing oneself, for me at least, seeing myself as a karma yogi has actually helped in my thinking, because I find that when you are doing, it is very hard to over intellectualize what you do. And then whatever you look back and you write or you distill, it's based on the experience that you have had. Then it becomes something that can get expressed very simply as an essence. And then you are able to look back at what you read and say, hey, this makes sense. This matches with my experience. And this is honestly the way that I have deeply internalized and made sense of a lot of things that I read. So I sometimes quote from books that I've read. I think I quoted something by Michelangelo once. I quoted something by some poet. And but when I do that and I have experienced it, it makes a lot of sense for me. Whereas earlier I would just quote it because I loved what it was, but I couldn't relate to it. So I think that's the way that the journey has happened for me.
I think it's a beautiful answer. So many questions popped up at least every second line that you were talking about. But I'll stick to one that is kind of underlying the whole thing. It seems that there are two aspects to how you said that you've been learning. You use the word Karam Yogi. I do not want to use the word right now because people may have different uh, understanding that they bring to this word. So I don't want to load it with too much of knowledge as of right now. But in terms of simplistic understanding that I took from your answer, one is that you start reading so that it gives you some context of what you're operating in. Because initially, when the mind starts searching for knowledge or truth or small truths, even then you are not really loaded with the understanding that is required. So initially you need to set that context, and it's the seeking mind which keeps on reading and assimilating and figuring out, okay, this works with me, this doesn't work with me, this is my kind of stuff, this is not my kind of stuff. So this is one part which I took from your understanding, that you need to read or you need to assimilate so that you have a better understanding of the subject to start with. And as you go further and you start questioning the knowledge itself also, because you did not mention it in these many words, but you start questioning, okay, if this quote means something to me, why does it mean something to me, and what is it that is happening? uh, there was, I think, a long time back, there used to be some kind of a song show on some channel which was being hosted by Anupam Kher for one episode. And he mentioned that the songs that we hear, they mean a lot to us very often. But while he was just walking on the road and a leaf from some tree fell on him, and he had a friend with him who quoted a line from some song that they both knew. He said that day it started to make sense. Okay, this is what the line means to me. And as an experience, I thought it is so beautiful because you may know the words, but you perhaps do not understand the depth of meaning that they convey till you have experienced them, which is what you said. And the second part I thought, which you did cover a bit, I wanted to speak a little more in terms of inspiration. Because if other minds have thought that what you have thought earlier and come up with certain kind of answers, good, bad, ugly does not really matter. They've come up with some answers. Then you do your own research and you come to either agreeing or disagreeing with it, which I think is, it helps you in the world, but it's not really important. It's the important thing is the seeking itself, trying to keep on digging deeper. So my question to you, where does this inspiration become copying and where does it become an original thought for you? So initially, if you related to it, is there any point, is there any deeper thought that you give to it, or do you stumble upon it? What happens? Is there any process?
So I'm going to, maybe I'll go off tangent. In fact, I have a habit, I do that when I'm asked a lot
Please,
of things. Yeah.
please.
But I think um so I mentioned Michelangelo, right? And The Agony and the Ecstasy is one of the books that I go back to every time. And it's the story of a sculptor. He has his life and his talent has no relation really to my life today or the work that I do, but it still inspires me so much.
Okay.
So Michelangelo says in that book that his teacher told him, get up every morning and draw your hand. and then look down and draw your feet. And he said that this will give you an exercise in perspective every day. So for me, whether I look at it as inspiration or copying, that would maybe come later. But what I like to do first is to get up and write something, to get up and think something up and make a note of it. And I believe the practice is very, very important. And whether we will say or do something original, it's a very big question, because there are like 7-8 billion people on this planet, and all of them
Yeah.
are creative, all of them have expressed, and we have been doing this through thousands of years. So somewhere this quest of being original can become egotistical, and somewhere just looking at things and saying, can I do better, can I do different, can be very overwhelming. And it's a topic for a different discussion, but I think sometimes that's where we get trapped in advertising, for instance, very often, that we have to do something different. What will we do? And that becomes a pressure. I think you have to do what comes naturally to you, which is you use the analogy of music, which is so beautiful. I believe everyone is capable of making their own music. You have to get up and make your own music, and making your own music makes you happy. And when you are happy, then you will do or write something that is originally and beautifully yours. It will have your fragrance, and that is what is important. So they say about fragrances, for instance, that I guess but most perfumes are using the same library of ingredients. Okay, but every year we have 1,000 new releases, and every time perfumes smell different to the people who use them. So why is that? And the reason is that the perfume smells different each time to the wearer, depending on his context, depending on the climate, depending on the clothes he or she is wearing. It will smell different each time. And people around will also feel that it smells new or different. Sometimes one perfume will remind you of other perfumes, right? And but you will still feel that this is something new and different, and that's really the way that I see human originality and creativity. Of course, things will lead to remembrances. Oh, this was in the past, this was done like that. But you as a unique person have an ability to create something unique in this moment. And it's true of writing also, right? Books will whisper to books. So something written today will always reference something that is in the past or sounds similar. But if you set out and you do what you feel authentically and intuitively, you're creating something fresh. And I think that's the only way to exist and be a creative being today.
Yeah. I like that you contextualized the next question in a way. Uh, Before that, I want to agree with you on that point. That's what I meant by originality, because still you stumble on your truth. In fact, I think again I would want to quote Khalil Gibran here, who says, "Do not say I have found the truth, but say that I have found a truth." And I think it means so much every time I stumble upon something, and it in a way combines me. It makes me bond with the rest of humanity on a level which is beyond this limited self that I carry in my head. So that was this, and the context that you said. I want to go to the other extreme. You said you get up and write every morning, or you have a certain pattern or practice that you started that kind of helps you, if I were to understand, ground you to the day of sorts. Okay. Now the question is really a little provocative in the sense, suppose you get up one day, you cannot write what you think for various reasons, or you are unable to do it, or something else has happened that is out of the ordinary to your day. Uh, how do you study yourself when the lack of expression is has been thrust upon you in a way? How would you study yourself in that moment? And before that, if you could explain what do you really write, giving us any semblance of understanding, okay, this is what you write every morning.
Okay. Okay. So I'll take the second question first.
Okay.
Yeah, which is, what do I write every morning? So the truth is, honestly, every morning I may not be able to write in the sense like a finished post or something that goes up. Yeah. But I don't also put a gun to my head to do it. I try to make notes. I try to read something if I can't, if I don't feel like writing, I try to read something and see if I get inspiration. Or otherwise, there are periods like now, I think for about a week, I have not pushed myself to write every morning. And there is a reason for this as well, okay? Because I think the mind is such a thing that it can turn even a good thing into a trap for yourself. So, if you're not writing every day, are you losing your creativity? Oh, what is it now? You're so flighty. Now you've moved to
Yeah.
something else. So, I don't want to become a victim to these kind of things. So, consistency is something that we have a lifetime to practice. And it means that you don't have to be harsh on yourself if you're not doing great stuff every day. See, it's not going to happen. It doesn't happen in work. It doesn't happen in life. Every morning, you're not going to be the perfect spouse slash father slash mother slash daughter. Every day, you're not going to be the perfect, solution to your client. You may do something that pisses off your clients. So these things, these ups and downs are going to happen. And every day you're not going to wake up at your creative best either. But what I do say is that just like we say that if we are humans on this earth, we are there to serve other people around us. I think one thing that people forget a lot is that you're also here to serve yourself. You're also here to take care of yourself with as much compassion and love as you are asked and exhorted to take care of people around you. So you really have to nurture and take care of yourself. Sure, there will be days when you are feeling lazy, and we needn't give it a big title each time, like saying, "Oh, I'm down, I'm mentally depressed, I'm exhausted." If you may not have big names, you might just not feel like doing anything, and you know what? It's okay. I would rather say every morning get up and do something really nice for yourself. It could be going for a walk. It could be having a cup of tea on the balcony among your plants and just looking out and watching the sun rising. Could be anything that you do. But if you are not being creative in that moment, nurture yourself so that the creativity can rise back another day, because it will. Just as the plants will grow if you water them and you're patient and you watch, plants don't grow on a timetable, right? And I
Yeah.
think none of us really know. Each plant grows at its own pace and its own speed. I have two plants of the same species. One is growing, the other is throwing tantrums. So there is some mystery out there as to how that works. But it's the same with you as well. So I would say nurture it back and it will come back one day. So and this patience is something that I learned with age. Maybe particularly in the last 2 years during the lockdown, I really learned this. It was not there earlier, but I've learned to make peace with this now.